Not just decoration. We are transformation. In the beginning was a garden.
This is Garden Studios.
Welcome to another episode of Garden Studios podcast. My name is Paul. To my right is my beautiful wife, Mattel.
Hello,
and
everyone.
Today we have Kristine Bover. She's our good friend of ours. She is a jazz vocalist extraordinaire. She's amazing, and she's one of the leaders here at Garden Studios. So, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
It's been a while.
Yeah. When was the last time you were on an episode with us?
Dude, I don't even remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, it's been a while since we started. We took like a month and a half break.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Which I think was good. Everybody needs some breaks.
Yeah.
Which really ties into the topic of this podcast.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, as you guys know, like last week we were talking about how I was feeling burnt out. I still am, and whenever people ask me about it, I always tell them, yeah, I'm better now. But it's like this doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? And I used to think that like all I needed was rest.
Yeah.
I just need to rest, but I got my rest, I think, and I still feel burnt out. And were you there at school when Haley was talking about being burnt out? It was. Or do you go to? Are you part of Wednesdays? No, you're in the school environment, so you don't. Okay, so she was last Wednesday. She was talking. Haley Brown, by the way, is one of the pastors at Bethel School, and she was talking about feeling burnt out, and she had us take down this list. And
Is it the check your vitals that you were talking about?
yeah. So here's a list that Haley have us write down to do on our own. So she calls it self-inventory.
Yeah.
And she put down, out of 10, how are you feeling out of these categories? Mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So mentally, I put 6.5. Physically, I put 4. Spiritually, I felt 3.
Oh.
And emotionally, I felt 7. Yeah. But I think it was helpful that she kind of put it that way, because I thought it was just physical. But, like, I think it's more multifaceted than I realized. That's why I still feel, like, super burnt out. Like, I feel like I need some type of, I don't know, like, fun or adventure. I actually need to be around people. Because I don't know, I'm so fine just being by myself.
Yeah.
That I feel like it's not going to help. If I'm feeling tired or burnt out, I feel like it's not going to help me being around people. But I actually think it is. Yeah.
And you went out yesterday by yourself with some friends. How was that?
Oh, what'd you do?
I went to Brazilian barbecue.
Oh,
party
nice.
thing. Yeah.
We have that here?
No, I mean, this is my friend's house. Do you know Esther?
Oh,
She's on
yeah.
our team. Yeah, she's brasileira, and her husband, brasileiro, made
I
some
love
churrasco, Brazilian barbecue. It was delicious. Hey, Esther and
was.
Hafa, if you're listening, thank you. That was so delicious. To be honest, it was fun. It was fun. I feel like with those type of get-togethers, I never want to go, but when I'm there, I'm like, oh, this is nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting that you're talking about needing, like, fun and adventure. Because I've been actually talking about this with my therapist. I go to therapy every week. Shout out to the Transformation Center.
Hey.
We love it there. But I was just talking through all of, like, these emotional things and just talking through so many things logically. And she stopped me and she was like, okay, like, what do you do for play? And actually, over the past break, every time I've been talking to friends, being honest with them and being like, I'm not doing the best. Actually, Tommy texted me this the other day and it really, like, whoa. They're like, oh, what things are you doing that you're really passionate about? Or, like, what things are you doing for fun? Just, like, do something you find fun. And I realized that, like, I've made everything that used to be, like, fun for me, I've made it into, like, something productive or something, like, to get me money or to get somewhere. So, like, music became my job. Anything else I did for fun, I'm, like, can't even think of things at the moment. But, like, everything I did for fun, like, I turned into a way to be productive. And, like, I rarely just do things, like, for play, just for the sake of doing that. And it was really interesting because I was telling my therapist that and like this realization. And she was like, actually, like it's a psychological thing that we heal our brains and our bodies like with play. And it's really important for children to have like space to play because that's actually how they like cope with their issues. But then when we become adults, we just stop doing that. And that's why we see like so many adults just getting stuck in like cyclical patterns.
Right.
Because kids are so resilient. I mean, that's part of being young too, but like you just like come back from it. But it's the importance of play. And you see like a really big difference in children or adults that when they were kids, they didn't play versus other kids that did. So like for me, I didn't really play that much as a kid. And I, from a super young age, was like, all my play had to do with something productive or a job or making money.
Right.
I had little businesses as a kid. Like I was
what
like,
kind of businesses?
I pulled out kids' teeth for money.
What?
How old are you?
What the heck? That's just a way of saying
haven't
I
heard
punch people in the face.
No, so I was in kindergarten. Yeah. Kindergarten, first grade. And I like found out that like if I pulled out my teeth and put it under my pillow, I got a lot of money. Because the tooth fairy was loaded at my house. My first tooth, I got $50.
Whoa.
And back then, inflation, like that was a lot.
What?
I think I was like 5 or 6 when I got my first tooth out. So what is that? 2000. Well, I can't.
That's
do
like
the
almost
math.
$100 in today's money.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was just like, guys, here's the business opportunity. If you guys want also money under your pillow tonight, you have a wiggly tooth, I'll get it out for you. Because I just had like no fear. So I would just like go
Just
and do
like-
that. So then I was collecting money. I did tattoos on people in the playground.
What the heck?
Yeah, I was an interesting child, but that's what.
Miami school system must be popping.
I call that very resourceful.
Yeah. And it's not like I needed the money. I wasn't like,
Uh-huh.
you know, like lacking anything.
Right.
I was well fed. Like
You were
I was
also
fine.
5.
Yeah, I just was like, I see an opportunity. Or even when I like used to play and stuff, my therapist was asking me like, what did you do? And everything I did was like, I would like role play as like a teacher or pretend I was like doing a job or like making money. Like everything had to do with like
Right.
something productive. And I've like realized like I'm feeling like quite burnt out as well. And I feel like there's multiple factors as to why. But one of them I've like looked at, like I don't see having fun and play as important. So like I don't put time in my schedule to have fun or just to do something like creative with for no like objective like or
Right.
for no like outcome.
Right.
I don't do that in my schedule because I don't have value for it. And I'm feeling the ramifications of that like in my mental health and my physical health. So I think it's interesting to think if like you guys are also like in a burnt out place of thinking like how much play, and it sounds funny to put it that way, but
Right.
we're still kids. Like we never like we act like we're grown and we're not. Like we still need that.
Yeah.
That's fundamental to like our being, and it's like how much time do we like set aside for that?
Right. I actually made a list of 20 things that I enjoy doing.
Oh.
And one time when I was feeling burnt out, Mattel said, hey, I don't want you to work. Just for the next few hours, I want you to do what's fun. And I took out that list, and nothing seemed fun. Like, nothing looked fun.
Dang.
So, like, I'm trying to figure that out. Like, what do I do when nothing sounds fun? Like, things that used to be fun, it just doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the same way like me going to, you know, get-togethers or dinners doesn't sound fun, but when I start doing it, maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, totally.
I think that's where like explore comes. It's like just trying different things, not being like I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be fun, but like okay, you start something, it's not that fun, be like all right, move on to the next thing. Just try to figure out what is fun at that time, just like explore.
Yeah, I mean, when Haley was talking about her burnout back in 2018, she said that she got this vision from God where she saw a tree with one leaf left, and it was like shaking, and it finally fell down, and she felt God say, "I'm taking you the next season. I'm taking you to winter." And she was like, "Oh well, what do you want me to do in winter? What do we do?" And he was just like, just let me hold you during the winter. And she was like, oh, that's fine. And then after that, she went into this like deep burnout, right? Where she basically similar situation as us, but she kept trying to still go. Like she was still as productive. And she started getting like this anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
She would have a hard time breathing, and she thought she was having a blood sugar issue, until she had a panic attack in Dave Ward's office, where she started like crying super loud, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this isn't blood sugar issue, this is something else." And then she started going to therapy and stuff. But what was super helpful with her story is that she was telling us how what her mistake was that when she was in that season, she thought she could do everything she was doing in the season prior the same exact way.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave us another set of questions, actually, that she said to ask ourselves. And one of the questions is, in this season, am I speeding up, slowing down, or keeping this pace? So when I started feeling this way in November, I still kept trying to do everything I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I don't know, it just didn't work out. I was always in a bad mood. It just wasn't working. So, I don't know, I think I'm starting to be okay with like just not doing as much.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, because I feel like a part of me finds, to be honest, a part of me finds like identity in what I do. Like I feel valuable when I'm productive.
Yeah.
And so not being productive, it makes me feel like what am I doing with my life, you know?
Yeah, what's funny, sorry. What's funny is he was trying to work, and since we got back, it just like last week he was really sick. Like extremely sick.
Yeah.
He couldn't like get up. He wasn't eating. It was like really bad. That also I think plays a part. And then when you started to try to work, you started feeling better. It just wasn't, you weren't able to.
Yeah.
Because you do DoorDash.
Yeah, I DoorDash, and there's this thing where you reach a certain amount of good reviews in your top dash, and you could work whenever.
Mm-hmm.
I did everything, but they still didn't put me on, and that means I can only work like once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah.
And then when you were able to work, like circumstances would happen, and then you wouldn't be able to work. And like I was telling you, I feel like you're not supposed to work as much as you were.
Ugh,
which
so
is
gross.
Which
so
is like
gross.
really difficult for him.
So
Yeah.
gross. It's nasty. I'm
Which
about to cry. It's so gross. Ugh.
which I feel like there's some seasons where is like God is kind of giving you clues like, hey, I told you you're supposed to rest.
Yeah.
And if you keep fighting it, certain things might seem like it's not working out, but maybe you're just supposed to rest. Which
Yes.
I get.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
It's interesting. Oh my gosh, it's happening to me too. It's interesting that you mentioned like seasons, but like specifically like winter,
Yeah.
because that's the season we're in. It's the first week of, or not the first week. We're like the third week of January right now.
Second week
Second week of January. So the whole world, like at the start of the new year, is like, new year, like let's go, all these resolutions, let's do
Yeah.
that. But it's so unnatural to do that in the dead of winter. Like our bodies were created to move with the seasons.
Yeah.
And season is the time of the most rest. That's why we have the least amount of sunlight.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be doing as little as possible, being at home. But yet like our world is structured in like, this is go time, and this is like
Right.
get to it, and new goals, and work harder, and set the new pace of your life. But it's so against the way that we were created, and the way that the actual world, like
Yeah.
the earth, the seasons, is like created to move.
Right.
So I actually, at the beginning of the new year, I got home like from break a little bit early, and I was like, I want to set some intentions and be really intentional. I'm like, I'm going to do all this in the new year. And I sat cleaning out my whole house, and I was like, I'm doing this, and I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to do this. And I just felt the Lord stop me and be like, look outside. I was like, okay.
Uh-huh.
And like I look out, and it's like cold, rainy. It was like 4, and it was already like getting dark, and I just felt the Lord being like, I created you to like move with these seasons. Like, what are you doing?
Wow.
Like, why are you trying to work out of season?
Yeah.
Even thinking like for Paul and I were in like the school environment still, and like American school systems work like the complete opposite of how we were created to work. Because the summer is when we take our most breaks and have the most fun. But like biologically, with how our bodies were created, that's when we're supposed to be working the most.
Right.
And the winter is the time of rest. But yet we work the hardest in the winter.
Huh.
It's
And then we
hibernation
wonder,
time.
yeah, and then we wonder why we're all like topsy-turvy, like not functioning.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, yeah, I'm thinking like during the winter, that's when like all the animals go into like hibernation. They slow down. They basically are in rest, and they prepare themselves for when it's spring so that they can gather and have fun summer. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think, yeah. What makes us different from them?
Yeah, because we weren't supposed to be. So it's interesting to think of like, what happened? Like, how did we get so far from like the original intention? And then also thinking of like, what would it look like to sit with the Lord and be like, can you teach me like what rhythms you created me to have?
Like pace. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing with burnt out as well, or being burnt out, is like analyzing your day-to-day life and be like, what are the rhythms in my life, and can I keep up with this pace? And like, what are the different aspects of it? And that's something I've been sitting with. Even this week, like I found myself just any moment of free time I had, I was just thinking of like, when's the next time I can go to sleep? Like when can I go to bed? And then like trying to hang out with people, because for me, like I'm super extroverted, so hanging out with people is high priority. Like I need to be around people. It's like good for me. But then to the point that I'm always with people, then I'm like either working or with people. When am I spending time in scripture? When is this happening? Or like, when am I taking time to just journal? But then am I songwriting? And all this
There's
stuff,
so
and I'm like,
much,
dang, there's so much. And like actually sitting with the Lord being like, what is actually what you want for me? Because we could pick up so many different things. Even like for me, like I have multiple jobs and like kinda, but working at different places, then like trying to like be creative, and I want to put out like an album sooner than later. So like writing that stuff, then like serving in all the things that I work in. Like, how am I supposed to do all of this? Like it actually is impossible. And to think it's like, it's just me. I can't imagine like, then you guys have a marriage. Then some other people have like
Kids,
whole families and stuff. And I'm like, how? It's progressively more things are going to be added onto my plate. And I don't want to just accept that I'm always going to feel this way, because it's going to keep getting more intense, you know?
Right.
And obviously there's a grace for like each new season.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want to learn how to be the best steward of this season now.
Right.
And not be constantly going through, I'm thriving, I'm burnt out. Then I'm thriving and thriving. Oh my gosh, I'm crashing and burning. Which I feel like is just so typical of like, honestly, everyone I know in my life. And I don't feel like that's okay. Like, I don't think we should always be in a state of like, I'm great. Oh my gosh. Especially as Christians.
Yeah. I think that's why like the Sabbath is so important.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's like part of the 10 Commandments to keep the Sabbath, observe the Sabbath day. I think that's what it says. Yeah, because he knows we need rest. That's like not for us. It's not laws for us that we need to follow, but he's given us that rule because he knows like our body needs that. If we want to thrive, he's given us exactly the list of what we need.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, how one of the laws is keep the Sabbath day holy. So like right now I'm reading the book of Joshua, and in the first chapter there's a Bible verse that was super frustrating. It's 1:9, Joshua 1:9. It says, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? And it was annoying because it's like I'm feeling weak right now, so like how am I supposed to, it's almost like it's a command, like it's something I could just turn on. I'm strong. You know what I mean? Like I can't just do that. And I felt the Lord asked me to read the verses before. And he actually said be strong and courageous 3 times, and that was the third time, was 1:9. And the first time it says be strong and courageous, and the second time it says be strong and courageous and keep my commandments. And when I read that, I'm like, keep your commandments. And I felt like the Lord was saying the way you become strong is by you keeping my commandments.
Wow.
And so it's funny how you say that his commandments is keep the Sabbath day holy, and it's actually what keeps us strong. And I feel like like the thought that comes to my mind is like my dog, right? Like she in the backyard she has like a fence, and that's like her boundary. And that's like almost, that feels like almost like that's God's quote unquote, that's God's law. And if she's safe inside her boundaries, but once she jumps out of those boundaries, then she's vulnerable. And I feel like yeah, maybe me not keeping the Sabbath day, maybe me not having rest, that actually made me super vulnerable, and that's why I'm weak right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so real. Dang. That's beautiful revelation. I've never thought of it that way.
Me neither.
I used to be frustrated too reading that, being like, God, how am I just supposed to be strong?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying, God. And like, I know your strength is made perfect in my weakness, but God, I'm real weak right now, and I'm not seeing it. But dang. Actually thinking about that, my one of my best friends, Sophs, you guys know her. She is super, super passionate about the Sabbath. And I remember a bit in second year, everybody was getting like caught up in everything. I really intentionally was like, okay, I'm making my Saturday Sabbath, which for Jewish people, Saturday is like the Sabbath. And I'm like, I am doing absolutely nothing that requires work on Saturday.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it had me like working harder on Friday and Sunday because I was like, I don't like want to have anything to do. Like everything that I'm doing on Saturday is going to feel restful. It's going to be things that like build me up. Even the people I choose to see are going to be people that like bring peace in my life. So like being really selective, like not reaching out to like a new friend, but like people that are like, you know, consistent, stable in my life. And I found in those, like that season, I was the most productive, like the most content. On the other days that I wasn't working or that I was working harder to make up for not working on Saturday, I was doing like so much better.
Wow.
Like everything flourished. And I remember one day after like a couple weeks of doing that being like, dang, I just followed God's word and that's this is what happened.
Come on.
Why am I surprised?
Yeah.
But thinking like I've even fallen away from that a bit because like I just don't know how to right now in this season how to build my schedule to be able to do that. So now like my Sunday's kind of my Sabbath. I liked before doing my Saturday as a Sabbath because I like didn't even want to go to like church. Like, I do go to church. I didn't want to go have church on the Sabbath. Like, because church, especially here, we go to a very big church, is a very, like, to-do thing, and it's, like, a lot. So I wanted, like, my time with the Lord, like, alone and with my friends in fellowship to be, like, my Sabbath church, and then go to church on Sunday as just an extra part of my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes
But...
sense.
Dang, I'm like wondering, like, what if we did like a little experiment and we just started like really committing to Sabbath, like intense, hardcore.
And it looks different for
And then we come
everyone.
back.
That's what I feel like. It looks different for everyone. For some people, it could be like not doing anything, and for some, it could be actually like going on errands or something because that's what they find relaxing, or that's where they find like leisure.
That's like my mom. My mom cleans to get relaxed. It's so weird.
So like it looks different for everyone, but I think if we all make a list, it's like gonna look completely different. Like what is relaxing to you? What doesn't sound like work for you?
I think of like one of my favorite Sabbath days. It was so chill. But me and Sophs, we just like woke up. Also, we live together, so if that makes sense. But for people listening, but we just like woke up like slowly. We made like breakfast together. I think we went to go grab a coffee. Then we like drove to Whiskey Town, which is like a lake out here, and we just sat by the lake, talked for like a couple hours. Then we went home.
That's so fun.
I think we did like watercolor paintings in the living room. Then we had our friends over for dinner. We like lit some candles and just had dinner at our house with like some of our friends.
Wow.
And then went to bed.
That
And
sounds
I was-
magical.
It was like a great day. It was so simple, but I'm like, dang, that was like the only work we did was like cleaning the dishes. That's it.
Wow. I can't wait for the sun to come out because how long have we've been having rain for like 2 weeks straight now? And it's gonna rain until Wednesday. But
It's like hard not to complain because we need it for the summer.
I know we need it,
but
we
like
need it.
it's been tough 2 weeks.
You know what's interesting? I've been having all these like revelations, like looking at the rain. I've been like really being like emo girl, looking at the rain, being like, what is this? But even driving around Reading, like looking at all the infrastructures that have been built to hold all this rain, which I think is so interesting because we moved here at the same time, around the same time in
Mm-hmm.
2020, and that was a dry season. And honestly, since we've lived here, has like been pretty dry.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking like every time I drove around for years that I've lived here, being like, there's all these like little like streams or like little. I don't know, like crevices.
It's like the
made.
canals.
Little ponds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
come
there's
out.
canals, there's like
Yeah.
ponds, there's like even like little streams everywhere, but with
Yeah.
no water.
It's always
Empty.
dry.
And it's been empty for years.
Right.
And then looking at the rest of like northern and central California, there's massive flooding everywhere.
Yeah.
Like the cities like Sacramento, Stockton, the Bay Area, all flooded.
Yeah.
But then here we're fine. Like
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And then looking at all of the preparation and all the other things that like people thought have been planned for like years ago, now we're fine. And like all of this rain came that nobody expected,
Yeah.
and we're fine. And I've been just kind of like every day that it rains trying to think about that
Mm-hmm.
and be like, wow, like Lord, if I like really lean into like this season and what you're doing, and I feel like for me particularly this season is like very like preparation based,
Mm-hmm.
which makes me feel more burnt out because I'm like, I'm preparing for what? Because I'm not seeing the fruit yet.
Mm-hmm.
But every day looking outside being like, no, I'm in preparation because I know like the rain
The rain's
is gonna
coming,
come. And I don't think the rain, at least for me, I don't think it's gonna be for like a couple years maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he's building things in me and preparing things and like having me work at a certain pace in this season
Yeah.
to prepare for like the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other people might think I look silly or whatever or not having a plan, but like I know because God told me.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And it's funny even comparing that to like thinking about like Noah in the ark, how everybody thought
Yeah.
he was silly
Yeah.
for
Oh no.
we got a phone call,
It's your sister.
a guest caller.
My sister.
Okay. No, I'm gonna answer it. Hey, news.
Oh, are you guys on a podcast or something?
We're on a podcast.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're our guest now. Okay.
No, I was asking because there's a package here for Mattel, so I was making sure.
Gotcha.
Oh,
okay.
okay. I'll
I'll let
text
her
you.
know.
Okay.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. There you go.
Mattel has a package.
Mattel's a package.
That was supposed to be delivered here.
So I mean, if I was, let's say you guys are therapists, and I walk in and you heard my story, what is one piece of advice that you guys would give me?
If I was a therapist.
Yeah, if you were my therapist, both of you guys.
I've
Still
seen a lot
need
of
therapy.
therapists, so maybe I can.
Do therapists get therapy?
Yeah.
I feel like yes. I
Wow.
think you would need to, especially you hear all these like
So they therapize
problems.
each
So
My therapist gets therapy. She's talked to me about it.
other. Oh.
Because at the end of like one of our last sessions, she was like talking to me. She started like crying. She was
Wow.
crying by my therapy.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, dang girl, I don't know how you do this every week. I said it to her just like that. I was like, I don't know how you do this. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like,
Uh-huh.
you have to deal with such heavy stuff every week. And she's like, I get therapy too. And I work through my stuff. And she's like, it's a gift God's given me. And I was like, okay, girl. She's like wiping her tears. I mean, it was really sweet. She was empathizing with me to the point of tears, which was like sweet.
Yeah.
That my therapist like cares about me like that. But
Yeah.
but I'm thinking of, you can go first. I'm thinking what my therapist would tell you.
Did therapists get called doctor?
No,
Oh, sorry. Therapist.
it depends
Mattel.
on the type of therapist.
Gotcha.
Not all of them are doctors.
yeah,
But some are.
some psycho.
Okay, we'll just say you both of you.
Psychiatrist is a
Yeah.
doctor.
Okay, both of you guys are doctors. You guys are psychiatrists. Okay, at this moment. So Dr. Mattel.
I think one advice, because you probably heard a bunch of different things, for you would be, don't be so hard on yourself. It's very simple, but yeah, I think that's what will help you.
Thanks, Doc. Dr. Bover.
I'm thinking like, should I go the route of actual like advice I've received in therapy or like what I would?
Whatever you're feeling.
But I think it's really important to sit with the Lord and like map out priorities. And I think in seasons that we're feeling like burnt out, a lot of times it's because our priorities are out of whack and we're trying to prioritize too many things. So I'd be like really intentional, which this is like hard to do, but sit with the Lord and be like, I'm not leaving until you talk to me. Like, what are my priorities in this season? Like, what should they be? And how do I practically do that?
Yeah.
Because I think we think about practicals and stuff, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before with like preparation. But I feel like when we go before the Lord, we're like thinking of more like metaphorical and emotional things, and we don't come to God with help or asking for help with like our schedule or like numbers or like even if you're having issues with like budgeting, being like, let me sit with the Lord and ask him for this. We just ask him, we're like, God, can you help me with how I'm feeling?
Yeah.
But we leave him out of these other things and like these like practical nitty gritty things when it's all over scripture that he cares about those things, and he actually loves to communicate in that way. Thinking about like Noah with the ark and like gave him the exact proportions, and it's all over the Old Testament that he does that, of giving like exact measurements. So I think it'd be really a beautiful like experience for you in this season to sit with the Lord and ask him to help you reprioritize things, and then sit with your schedule and be like, God, what do you want this to look like? What time frames do you want me to work? What time do you want me to be doing third year stuff? And it may not even look like it makes sense in the natural, but if that's what God's on, it's just going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've seen it before of like we do things that like in the natural makes no sense.
Right.
It's not the most logical thing, but that's what God said.
Yeah.
And then it works and everybody's surprised. And we're like, well, if the creator, Lord of the universe said it was so.
Yeah.
So I think, and as I'm saying this, like I think I need to do this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit with the Lord and be like, help me with this nitty gritty stuff, like be a part of every part of my life.
Yeah.
And I think we start doing well when we get busy in other seasons and learning how to do things ourselves, that the Lord just goes like, woo.
Yeah.
And I found with myself, I think I'm doing, like I'm making him proud by like letting him, like being less needy and less dependent on the voice of God, because I'm like, God, I'm like being such a good like kid. I'm like learning everything that you told me to do, and now I can do it on my own. Like, and then we start doing that. We're like busy hustling, and I'm like, dang, I'm good at this. And then all of a sudden I'm like dying.
Yeah.
And I can't do it anymore. I'm like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
And then I realized, I'm like, oh, in the beginning, God was so close and I was so dependent. And I'm not saying that that's where you're at, but
it sounds like it.
yeah, well, I feel like we relate to seasons of where we're at. But yeah, especially as when you reached out to me about doing this subject, I really sat with the Lord and was asking him, like, what do you need me to do? What do you want me to do? And I feel like that was really loud and clear what he was speaking to me. So I feel like I could share that with you, and I think
that was great. Yeah.
it'd be helpful.
Yeah. So Dr. Mattel, Dr. Bover, thank you. Hey, listen, guys. So there you have it. If you're feeling burnt out, first thing, don't be so hard on yourself. And second thing, sit down and map out your priorities.
Maybe you're preparing for the rain.
Yeah.
Preparing for the rain.
Or the rain is here. You didn't prepare before, so you gotta ask God how
Get
to do
rained
it.
on.
So you're gonna
soaked.
You got flooding.
Yeah.
So you gotta ask how to build infrastructure so that you can actually receive what it is you've been praying for. Yeah. We've been praying for this for 3 years,
The rain,
and now it's here.
Yeah, now that the promise is here, people are complaining.
Yeah.
I know. That's one thing that God has been revealing to me.
Dang, y'all are slicing me up right now.
Literally, because I was like, people kept complaining. I was like, it's actually good. We need this for summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, we've been praying for this. And it's kind of correlates to some things in our life. Like, I was complaining about certain things, and I was like, dang, 7 years ago, I was praying to be here in Reading for school, and now it's here, and I'm complaining. God had to kind of give me a heart check there.
That's me.
Yeah, and lean into the season. If wherever you're at, if it's raining like how it is now or here, like just lean into the season we're at. It's winter. Don't be kind to your body, and don't force yourself to move at a pace faster. There's a oh my gosh, Jonathan and Melissa Helser book.
I love
one
them.
of the Cultivate books.
The winter's
winter's
here, winter's coming.
So it talks about it's the clarity that winter brings.
Oh yes.
And thinking like when the leaves fall off the trees, you could see right through them.
Yeah.
And there's a special like clarity and just like vision you can get in the winter when like everything else has to die, everything has to slow down, and you can really look at things. And I feel like that's the beauty of this season and in winter, and we shouldn't try to make it the season where like hustling but actually being still and like, let me look through the trees, let me look through have like clarity. Let me look at my life, which I feel like is a point that we're at as we're
Yeah.
talking. It's like we're at a point where like I can't do this anymore. I'm feeling like I'm dying.
Yeah.
What is my life, and what's happening here, and how can we resort things?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the winter's for.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely there. I think it's time to find that clarity. I'm always distracted, and I need to just sit down. Yeah, but we're gonna close it out, y'all. Thank you guys.
Yeah, this was a good convo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's helpful for me at least.
Helpful for me too.
Me
Yeah.
too.
It got me thinking. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go journal after this.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're not hard on yourself, and make sure you get your priorities straight. And yeah, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Toodles.
Not just decoration. We are transformation.
It feels more organic.
In the beginning was a garden.
This is Garden Studios. Welcome home.